We are back, everybody, for another episode of Go Blue with Stu. I'm your host, Stuart Douglas, and today we got special guest Austin Hatch. Austin, I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, Stu. Really appreciate it. Great to be with you.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to talk with you. You have a baby. You and your wife, Abby, got a baby coming up here. It was October, right?
Yep, yeah, he'll be here. He'll be here in about 7 weeks.
Yeah, I saw the, was it the sonogram? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I think probably my wife posted it on her Instagram.
Yeah,
I posted on my Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, that baby's gonna be what, 7 foot tall?
So we had an ultrasound last week, and the nurse basically said to my wife, "Honey, I don't know what else to say. He's huge." So he's measuring in the 100th percentile of size, and so my wife was like, "Okay, so does that mean out of 100 babies, he's the biggest?" And the nurse was like, "Exactly."
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So and we just got the projected weight. Yeah, we don't know exactly how long he is, but he's gonna be like 11 and a half pounds.
That's crazy. That's just wild. Yeah. You might be coaching a center one day, not a shooting guard. You're expecting
well, I hope he gets everything from my wife. Her good looks, her intelligence, her only thing he could get from me is my jump shot.
The jumper.
At one point, you could too. At one point, I don't know about now. I can't really shoot anymore, but at one point I could.
Slowly losing it. Yeah. It's doing it away. Yeah, it's because how tall is your wife? She's 6'5"?
So she's 6'5", I'm 6'6". And maybe he's 6'10", 6'11", 6'11". I don't know. But
yeah.
But I'm already, I bumped into my wife a couple of times the last few days in passing. Just kind of bumped into her. She's like, "Hey, babe, I'm pregnant. Like, be careful." And I'm like, I don't want him to come out soft. He's gonna play through contact. Right?
You got to teach him the grit. Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So it was funny, looking into your story and you and your wife's story, and you guys met in college, obviously, in Ann Arbor. She played volleyball, really good volleyball player. And you guys got engaged pretty quickly after you graduated, and it's, not very common anymore. So I was curious because I just got married and went through the whole process. Mm-hmm. Like, when did you know? Because you knew pretty soon, and you've gone through a lot of different life experiences, obviously, to make up your mind pretty quick. Like, yeah, this is what I want in life. Like, how did you know that you wanted to propose right out of college?
So I actually, so the night of her student athlete graduation, April 26, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
No, April 28th, 2017, excuse me. So she had student athlete graduation in Chrysler, right? You probably remember.
Yeah.
And then after that, I kind of surprised her and said her volleyball coaches had something to give her, like, some award or something. And her family brought her over to the volleyball arena, and I was at midcourt with a ring, right? And did the whole, you know how it is, do the whole thing. I love you, want to spend the rest of my life with you, and whatever. And so that was after my junior year, because she's a year older than me.
Oh, that was after your junior. After her senior, yes.
So
Yep.
I missed a year of school, with everything that happened. That set me back 1 year. But yeah, so I was engaged my whole senior year at Michigan. In her first year working. So, hey man, when you know, you know.
Yeah, when you know, you know.
When you know, you know. And it's it's kind of like Coach B told me when he kind of found out we were starting to date and stuff, and I think there'd been a track record of basketball players with volleyball players that didn't always turn out great. I think.
Yeah, some might say that. Yeah.
So Coach is kind of like not that he was like doubting it, but he was like, be careful. And,
yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember him saying this when we are doing like help side, like shell drill or whatever in practice, like you got to be in position to be in position, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And then like you'd also say, she's not your girlfriend until she's your girlfriend. So
I forgot about that one. I remember the be in position to be in position one. That one's seared in my memory. Yeah, I forgot the girlfriend one.
Yeah. Him and Coach BA. Man, good times.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you didn't hear the end of it from BA.
No.
Yeah, you don't get it often. Not too many engaged college kids. Not maybe any Big Ten basketball players engaged while they're still in school.
Yeah.
All the time.
No, but hey, you know what I thought to myself, man? I was like, hey, if I don't if I don't marry her, somebody else will.
Hey, I respect the hell out of that. Exactly. Yeah, you gotta lock it down. When you know. That is for
You
sure.
know. It's
I
kind of like I don't know about how you committed to Michigan or how your whole recruitment deal went, but it's like Michigan was my first high major offer, and it's like when you know, you know. It's like
yeah. No,
I don't need. There's a lot of these guys, get all of these other offers and like see what's out there. That they get Michigan, Michigan State, Duke, North Carolina. I wasn't good enough to get all those, but it's like if you get what you want, why do you need to wait?
I completely understand. I wanted other offers just so Michigan would offer me. I was like, yeah, offer me please. So like you pressure Michigan, and I wanted to ask you about that. I didn't realize it was your first high major one, and I know your mom went there, and it was something a school you pinpointed early on.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, how were you so sure? What was it about Michigan and Beeline that you just honed in on real quick?
Well, I think it was one the I mean Michigan's been in my family for but both my grandpas went to Michigan, my mom went to Michigan, my
Mm,
dad did some research here before medical school, and so we had season tickets growing up, so I came to the Big House probably when the first time when I was like 1 year old, and
gotcha.
it's been in my family for years, and obviously with a man, a coach, not only a coach, obviously Coach B's an incredible coach, but like just the kind of man he was, or he is,
Yeah.
and I think my dad was probably sold on him before I was, and in a good way, and yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's an accident that I committed to Michigan, with a coach like John Beeline before everything happened the second time,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's just like I don't know that like the whole like meant to be thing. Like I don't think it's an accident that I committed to Michigan. Like and I'm
Right.
sure, and coach even said we just had dinner with him on Friday, up in northern Michigan with him and his wife and a couple of their friends, and I'm sure like he's exact. I'm sure every coach would have done what we did, but I'm like, you might think so, but like
You
I
don't
don't
know.
know, you don't know, and
Yeah.
it would have been very easy to give my scholarship to somebody else who could help, you know,
Right.
and yeah, so
No,
just
it'd be just as easy to be selfish in that position. And I was curious because I saw you posted that picture, and I was wondering what your relationship like is with Beeline and how you stayed in touch and
mm,
kind of how special it is to you throughout the process for everything.
yeah, I mean he's like so when I speak, I talk about one of the things I talk about the I in grit is integrity. And what I talk about is following through on our commitments, especially when there's a change in circumstance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we commit to doing something, commit something to ourselves or to somebody else, and then something unexpected comes up, and then okay, I committed to you when things were good, but now that they're not, yeah, I don't know that I'm going to follow through. That's what most people do. But I'm like, man, organizationally, if we can have every person on the team who makes it a priority to follow through on everything they commit to all the time, that can only help us win, right? And if everybody knows that, like the dependability factor, like if people know, if you and I are working on something and you ask me to help you with X, Y, or Z, and I say, sure, happy to do it. If you don't have a doubt in your mind that I'm going to get it done, then I'm going to deliver on what I committed to. Doing that one time is no big deal, but if everybody buys into that idea, right? And
Yeah.
like, and I'm just like, man, I mean, and it doesn't take any talent to follow through on your commitments, but it's harder though. I mean, it's easy to make commitments when everything's good. You're in a good mood,
Yeah.
business is good, family's good, life's good, whatever. But then when things change, oh yeah, I made that commitment when I was in a good mood, when business was good, when I was having a good week of clients or whatever. Yeah, now that things are tough. Sorry, but I'm not going to be able to deliver. That's the more common thing.
Right.
But I think if everybody can just make it a priority to follow through on everything they say they're going to do all the time, it can only help us win. So
It is. It's that my dad taught me that early on, where like showing up is 90% of success and just
mhm.
being consistent. And what Beeline, what I really learned at Michigan was when you show up, the guy next to you feels more confident, and then he shows up more, and then that makes you more confident. And so, like, when that guy shows up next to you and you know that he's going to do his job and stay consistent, that helps you, and vice versa. And then just becomes this whole beautiful circle of consistency and showing up. And it can get selfish real quick, and you can start pointing fingers. I had that a couple years at Michigan. We turned things around my junior year, but in particular, it was like, all right, you got to take responsibility for yourself, and you got to show up and commit and have integrity. And he preached that a lot.
Mm.
And I don't know. I wanted to get into some of the grit framework and where you picked it all up, and I guess it's a good place to kind of transition into that. When did you start really developing the fundamentals of that framework?
Yeah, so I think as I kind of, like on my journey on my road to recovery, like right, like Angela Duckworth, my good friend from University of Pennsylvania, really smart lady. UPenn is kind of Michigan to the East, if you will, and and she says that grit's passion and perseverance for the long term vision, right? Like grit's being like we said, being consistent in our action, showing up every day consistently over the long term. That's great. That's very important. But on my recovery, it was more than just showing up, just being consistent. Like it was like I had like a Coach Beeline came to see me in the hospital in Chicago when I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. My legs are broken, but they'd healed by this point because I was in a coma for 2 months. And Coach said, I can't wait to have you on my team someday, man. I can't wait to coach you. Whenever you're able to come to Michigan, I can't wait to coach you. So a lot of things had to happen to overcome that challenge, overcome that adversity, and achieve my goal of getting there, getting to Michigan. But more than anything, I think it took some grit. It took some grit. It wasn't just hard work, though. I mean, yeah, hard work is there's no substitute for it, right? But I think grit's more specific than that. It's more measurable, right? I don't know about in your business, like with Farm Bureau, they probably don't just say, just work hard, make a lot of calls, have a lot of meetings, good things will happen. They probably give you numbers to hit, right? Or specific things to actionable steps to follow, right? That like will give you a good chance of being successful. And like the thing about it, grit, the framework that I talk about, the growth mindset, the resilience, the integrity, team first mentality, we can get in more in detail in a minute. That's not going to guarantee that we overcome. But if we don't have those things, if we're lazy, if we feel sorry for ourselves, if we're not committed, that's going to guarantee we don't achieve our goals in the face of challenges. So, yeah. I think it. Yeah, and here's the thing for me that I've learned too is like grit is kind of the standard I've set for myself, right?
Yep.
Like I'm going to approach everything, work for something bigger than myself. My faith and my family in heaven, and my wife Abby, and our little baby boy, and hopefully our other kids. I'm gonna they're my purpose, and I'm always going to be driven by that, right? And that's going to drive the growth mindset. Look for the opportunity to grow from even the challenges. You find it's like Coach B always said, right? Watch the film and get better from it, right?
Yeah.
Like every time, it's like you lose the game, yeah. Nobody likes to lose, but if you can watch the film and get better from it,
right?
It's not really a negative. I mean, it is a negative on the surface, but if you can take positives from it, why wouldn't you do that? And then if you decide to be resilient, take massive action in the face of adversity. You got to go big or go home, and go all in on that road to recovery or overcoming the challenge or achieving the goal.
Yep.
And if you have the integrity we talked about, and then the team first mentality, if you have all those things, that's not going to guarantee that we overcome, as I said, but it'll give us a pretty good chance. And that's kind of the standard I've set for myself, right? That's what I do. That's my standard. Your standard's different. Other people listening to this have a different standard, but I think if we set a standard for ourselves, we'll do what we can to follow up or to live up to that standard, regardless of circumstance. So
yeah, I do want to get into some of the details of these things, but a lot of people know your story, but a lot of people don't know kind of this grit framework and what you're doing now in the last few years. Kind of give a quick synopsis of where you started, what you're doing right now, and where you want to take this.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I go to the backstory first. So I was tragically involved in 2 plane crashes growing up. First in 2003, kind of lives of my mom, Julie, sister Lindsay, and my little brother, Ian. Incomprehensible loss, right? But my dad and I pressed on, found a way to keep moving forward in the midst of that. And he was eventually remarried to a lovely woman named Kimberly, her 3 kids of her own. Great abundant family. restore some normalcy in my life. Not the same, obviously, but great to have
Mm-hmm.
my siblings at home again. And I was working pretty hard on my basketball skills. Again, to have success on the court, got to be pretty good. Had to get a lot better. But I think Coach Beeline, when he offered me on June 15, 2011, I think he saw potential in me, right? And I think that's a lot of what he does. He offers based on the potential that he sees, and not necessarily who you are at the time. Like I know Karis LeVert was, not to say he was a nobody, but he wasn't. He was like
Pretty
who
close. Yeah.
right? Like right, and then look at him now, and like even Trey, right? Trey wasn't really highly recruited,
No, not at all. Yeah.
and then
Ohio
yeah,
State didn't even offer him. Yeah.
no, yeah, and so I mean like, and so like, but Coach has a really good way of seeing potential, and so I think that's what he saw in me. Who's to say how good I would have been, but um, so he offered me that scholarship, and then I accepted. Then 9 days later, though, June 24th, 2011, we were involved in a second plane crash that claimed the life of my dad and my second mom. Almost killed me as well. Probably should have killed me, but put me in a coma for about 2 months, maybe 9 weeks, and by the grace of God, came out of that coma and had a long road to recovery ahead of me. And I don't talk. So when I speak, I don't talk much about the events. Right? The events
Right.
are the events are tragic, challenging, whatever. But the value that I can provide people is in how we overcame it and the lessons I learned the hard way. And yeah, and so my hope is that in me sharing my story, it'll maybe give people a little bit of a different perspective and kind of think, hey, you know what? If this kid could do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
Everybody's facing challenges, and I really believe it's kind of my purpose in life to help others find ways to thrive in the midst of them. So
And you've been taking your story and explaining basically grit and explain again the acronym. And I'm curious of the details of when I read something where you really enjoyed talking with people, talking in front of groups, well, even still in college. Did you know that's kind of what you wanted to do, or maybe in the back of your head, like this was a possibility? And then, where did this all develop?
yeah, so I spoke for the first time to a charity in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I'm from.
Hmm.
Called Aaron's House is the name of the charity. It's an organization that kind of helps grieving families and stuff, kids that lose their parents early on. So unfortunately, I'm connected to that. I never went there, but obviously near and dear to my heart. Given what I've been through and stuff. And first time there was April of 2016. Probably did terrible if I watched the film of that, but
Yeah.
but but I look at like got a nice reaction from it, and people were very loved to hear what I had to say for
Hmm.
whatever reason, and that kind of started the ball like that. Like from that point on, I was the spring of my sophomore year, and then probably from then on till the end of my senior year. So for the next 2 years, I probably spoke maybe 8 or 10 more times, give
Hmm.
or take.
Okay.
And yeah, yeah, probably, yeah, maybe 6 or 8 is probably more closer estimate. And didn't know, and then I interned in the corporate office at Domino's while I was in the summers, while I was between sophomore, junior, senior year, and then accepted an offer to work there full time after I graduated. When was there a year and a half, and I spoke a pretty good amount while I was there. Used my vacation days to go speak, and worked. My boss there kind of understood, like he's like, look, man, like if this is your calling, this is your greater purpose, like just go for it. Like, and it's and so I kind of made the decision. I left Domino's November of 2019,
Hmm.
Friday before Thanksgiving of 2019. Had a good December. Probably did 3 or 4 events before Christmas, and then pretty good January, good February. My last event was March 6th, 2020 in Austin, Texas, and to a big Ford, like division of Ford Motor Company down there. I spoke to Ford, the court, like in Michigan, in Dearborn, like the world headquarters. Spoke there. That was great. And then spoke to another group in Texas. Like I said, March 6th, 2020. That was my last in-person event for 16 months. And
It's a long time.
yeah, because COVID, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, it's kind of hard when you're speaking to rooms of, a couple hundred people, and they say you can't gather more with 10 people in a room at a time.
Yeah.
That kind of poses a challenge for me. That's like, you can play basketball, but you're not allowed to go like be five guys on the court at once. You can play 2-on-2, but you can't like right. It's just like it
Yeah.
was but found a way. I've done about 100 virtual events in the last couple of years, and
Wow.
yeah, so we built the business, and it's like and kind of what I talk about also is like I think we got like adapt, like you got to be adaptable, right? And it's
Yeah.
like for me, it's like and so I talk about in the context of my story. I commit to Michigan June 15, 2011. I think hoping to have a great career there. And then my goal was to go to medical school after college. I wasn't good enough to play a pro or anything. Um, but then the second plane crash happened 9 days later. It wasn't it wasn't a roadblock. It wasn't you're never going to get to Michigan. It was just you got to kind of take a different path, right? And I
Right.
like in business now, it's like for me, it's like I had this thing going pretty good, and then March of 2020, COVID, like for all of us, we've all had to adapt, and like, but you find a way, and yeah, so it's
Yeah,
been
it's
a
pretty fitting.
blessing to be. What do you say?
Pretty fitting to throw that
Yeah,
wrench in your plans. Yeah.
yeah, but hey, you know what? It's like, I mean, you just got to adjust. It's like right. It's like at Michigan, like Michigan State, Wisconsin, Ohio State, whoever I don't know, Louisville. You played in the national championship game, right?
No, it was a year after me.
Okay, that was your
Yeah,
after.
just missed it.
Yeah, okay. So I'm trying to think of who else. So obviously you played all the Big Ten schools, but
Hmm.
right, but the other teams would always do things you don't expect, right? You scout for everything. Coach
Always.
Ryan is very prepared, right?
Yep.
But then the other teams usually would do something we don't expect, right? We didn't really see that in the film, but it's like okay, you don't prepare for it, but you just find a way to
Yep.
guard a different play or whatever. So
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm curious because you have really developed this in the last couple of years. I mean, 100 engagements since COVID started. It's a lot. Um, where do you see this going? And are you getting back into the swing of things of in person? And how is that going with all that?
no, it's great, man. Yeah, nice to be back in person, and yeah, I had my first. Um, yeah, I've been doing in person stuff for about a probably. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm trying to think when my first in person thing was. When to
It
say
all
was that?
seems like a blur.
Yeah. Want to say it was like um, I think it was last May. I think it was May of 21 in Florida because Florida doesn't really have COVID. COVID,
No, it
which is
didn't.
which is great, but yeah, it's nice to be getting back in person and well, you know what? It kind of is compared to basketball. What COVID kind of was, and what COVID did for my business, like it was a little bit like the NBA bubble. Like virtual stuff is like playing a game with no fans. Like you
Yeah.
don't like you get no engagement from the audience. Like you're looking into the screen. Like this is great. It's you and me. But if I'm speaking to if there's 500 people on the other side of this call, I don't see every single person. They all have that. I'm individual on their screen. They see me, but I don't see them. So it's
Right.
like I'm looking at a little black camera for 45 minutes. It's not. I mean, it's hopefully it's exciting and engaging, but it's not really. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
so yeah, it's nice to be back in person, man. And I think for like down the road, I'm gonna do this as long, and I got to adapt and add more things to it. It's like in at Michigan, throughout the season, you don't run plays the exact same way you did in November as you do in March, right?
Right.
Add little things to them, and yeah. So I'm good, and we're doing great, and I just want to impact as many people as I can, one person at a time, and I think there's a lot of runway left. I mean, so yeah, I've been doing this a couple years, and who's to say I'm going to do this in another 20? But if I have, maybe I'll do this. I don't know if it'll be another 5 or 10, and then I gotta add something else to it, and maybe it's more of a coaching thing where I'm not only speaking, but it's like working with teams, like on a more consistent basis. I don't know, right? It's like I think I'm always gonna work for myself,
Mm.
and because I think it was Mark Cuban. started something on Shark Tank. They said something like, once you work for yourself for any period of time, you can't really go back to work for anybody else. So hopefully we'll be able to stay in business for a while.
No, yeah, it seems like it. And it seems like one way or another, you'll just figure it out. Like you've developed sort of a framework where you can kind of deal with anything. You just like absorb your experience. You're like, all right, this is how I adjust to things. And then you kind of pick it apart, and it's very cerebral. And I'm curious about your experience early on, going through those college years and right after the second crash. I got a quote here. It was right after you scored your point, your first and only point in the uniform. And the quote was, by the time my career comes to an end here, I don't want to be known as a cool story. Obviously, what happened to me is kind of unique, but that's not who I am. Do you, how do you balance that where you use your story, but you don't make it the only thing that you are? Because, a lot of people do, you see Austin Hatch. Oh, yeah, look what he went through. That the two plane crashes, but that's not who you are. And how do you balance that? You personally being like, you're not a victim. I'm not someone that, you know, is just this happened to me. Like I'm going to go and make the most of it. Is it an everyday kind of conscious thing, or you've kind of built the framework now and you're just hitting the highway going full speed and you've now kind of conquered that end of it mentally?
Yeah, well, I think the thing that I've kind of learned about, we all go through different things, right? But I think if we find ways to thrive in the midst of whatever challenge we go through, I think it'll give us an incredible opportunity to be a blessing to other people, right? And not the event, like people, like the way I can bless other people, the way I can add value is not resharing what happened to me. Like it doesn't like you're going through stuff like I don't know what it is, but it's like we're all going through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Help people. It's not really encouraging to say, "Hey, you know what, man? Sorry you're going through this. Yeah, I went through this. Look at me. I know what you're going through." Like that's encouraging, but
Mm-hmm.
like, but I think more so it's like, look, you're going through this. I'm sorry. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. I've been through a few challenges myself, and here's what I've learned. Maybe one thing that helped me could help you too, right? And so it's like basically the grid is like the acronym. It's like it's just what I learned, and so when I speak, I'm like, you know what? You don't have to take away much from me today, but if one thing I say today will resonate with you, will help you in your journey through life and overcome the challenges you'll inevitably face. It's like I feel like I've done my job. It's like, and if I can add that, if I can, my goal is to add value to every single organization I get to work with, whether
Yeah.
that's Northwestern Mutual, Pacific Life, Ford, Domino's, whoever it is, right? Just add value. And I feel blessed to be in a position to share some things from a unique perspective. And yeah, again, like I said, nothing to share is it's nothing earth shattering. It's nothing brand new that nobody's ever heard of before. But like, maybe I just try to put it in a little bit of a different perspective. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, package it in a way that's ingestible and resonates. I'm curious about, like you said, it's these big picture ideas aren't brand new, but I'm curious of Austin Hatch the day to day. Like, what does Austin Hatch do day to day to overcome adversity? How are you taking adversity in and dealing with that on a more minute scale? Does that make sense?
For sure. Grit, right? Growth
Yeah.
mindset. Like if I don't do well, like I've had some events in the past, few months where I didn't do as well as I wanted to. Okay, it's frustrating, right? It's
Yeah.
like you play a bad game, you prepared all week for it, but you didn't execute. You didn't
Yep.
run the right. It happens. Okay, I'm going to grow from that. What do I need to work on? I need to talk slower. I need to make sure I stay on top of my points in my head. I need to not repeat myself, say the same thing multiple times. I don't need to do that as much. Like, right. And it's
Yep.
like there's always opportunity to grow. And so I think I'm like, yeah, you know what, or like if I'm on a call, I've had some events that in the last, few months that I thought were like for sure bookings. And then they said, hey, you know what? We either are going to go, we're going to go another direction, or let's follow, let's revisit this next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what could I have done to change that outcome? Right? Maybe maybe it was them. Maybe they just are in a tough spot as a company, as an organization. But like, what could I have done to change that outcome? Right? It's like you lose a game most of the time. Yeah, you don't want to beat yourself, right? Like I heard a coach. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Dabo Sweeney, Clemson, right? He said,
Mm-hmm.
he says, don't lose to Clemson.
Yeah.
Like, right? Michigan said, or Coach B said basically the same thing.
Yep.
Like, he's like, you do the passing. Like these guys are college athletes. You don't need to practice bounce passes, but it's like, I don't want to beat myself. In obviously we all make mistakes, but like in the business that I'm in now, there are things that I control. The number of people I call, the number of people I ask for referrals, right? It's like calling a lot of people, asking for a lot of referrals is not going to guarantee that I win, not going to guarantee the business grows. But if I don't do those things, it's going to give a pretty good chance that we don't do as well as we want to. And like as a dad, if I'm not there for my son and I'm not supporting my wife, because what I've kind of learned is like not to share too much marriage stuff, and I'm only 4 years in, but I have a cousin who's married and I just had a baby girl in December, and her husband said like his wife, he's like, bro, Abby will do the feeding, you'll do everything else. Right? And I'm like, okay, like cool, like that's what it takes. And it's like that's not going to guarantee doing those things. It's not going to guarantee that it's easy. It's not going to be easy.
Right.
It's going to be tough. But I'm like, there are things that we can do that are going to drastically influence a positive outcome of any situation, whether it's as a dad with a newborn, or whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, right? Like we were talking about, I think as we got cut off there, it's like you lose a game, watching the film and getting better from it is not going to guarantee you that you don't lose for the same reasons in the future. But if you just don't make the decision, okay, we lost, whatever, you just push it to the back burner,
Yeah.
then you probably will lose for the same reasons again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hear a lot of, I think acceptance, personally, I think acceptance is a prerequisite for success in a lot of different areas. Like when you know that like loss is going to happen, then you're way ahead of the game and ready to prepare. You're more prepared to learn from it and overcome it. And you have especially had to deal with a lot of acceptance. And I'm curious about you in your personal life, how you've learned to deal with that, how you've kind of incorporated acceptance and kind of like the ups and downs of acceptance, because you have gone through so much. Like what has that been like in your life?
Yeah, well, I think yeah, it's acceptance, it's an acknowledgement of the current situation, and I think it's an honest self-assessment of the current situation. Like for me, most people like on my road to recovery from the second plane crash, and I was almost killed and I was in a wheelchair, couldn't walk, and I was basically relearning how to live life again. There weren't really people that like sugarcoated it. Like the doctors didn't really tell me, oh, you know what, like things are going to be just, you're going to get back to better than you were before. Like the people that didn't really sugarcoat it, which is a good thing. Like it was a tough situation, and like for me, I think a big thing to live by, like when we're overcoming any challenge or working to achieve any goal, you're trying to win a Big Ten championship, right? Or whatever. Like there's going to be challenges along the way, and I think to achieve those goals, and you might remember this, Coach B said this, choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong, right?
Right.
And I didn't know this at the time, what he was referring to, but there's a prayer, the cadet prayer at West Point. There's 3 lines that I think are like awesome ways to live life. And I'm not going to say if you live by these 3 things, you're going to achieve any goal, overcome any challenge, but
Right.
you probably, I mean, you have a pretty good chance. So the 3 lines are, Lord, encourage us in our endeavor to live above the common level of life, never to be content with a half truth and the whole can be won. Make us choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. right? And I'm just like, man, if we can pray, whoever you pray to, like pray for encouragement to be able to live in an uncommon way, live above the common level of life, because it's not common to overcome challenges. It's not.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people in the world who say, yeah, I'm working to achieve this, but then this happened, so I didn't achieve my goal. There's a lot more of those stories than there are people. We were working to achieve this. We were trending up. Things were good. This happened. We adapted and we still found a way. That's uncommon to have that sort. So I think that's the live above the common level of life. The second line, never to be content with a half truth and the whole can be one. And this kind of goes back to the acknowledgement thing you were talking about. The half truth is, this is going to be the reason I don't achieve my goal. I'm not going to overcome this, or we're going to lose this game, or our business this quarter, this year, yeah, we're going to be 10% down from year over year. But like, that's a half truth. Like maybe, right? Like you might not achieve your goal. You might lose. You might have a tough event. You like, but you can find a way to get the job done, right? Like, there were probably some games where you were, I mean, I don't know if there were games when you guys won. I'm sure there were, when you were outmatched on the stat sheet you shouldn't have won. Like most people wrote Michigan off and said, yeah, Michigan's not going to win this game. Like maybe not, but you also could, the whole truth can be, we're going to find a way to pull off an upset, right?
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say then, make us choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. I'm like, man, if there were people in the world, if everybody chose the harder right, it's easier for me to say this. I don't always do this. So I'm not trying to act like I'm, preaching from whatever. But
yeah,
if there were more people in the world that chose the harder right instead of the easier wrong, I think would be in a different place. So, and I think more people would achieve their goals, and there'd be a lot more people that overcame challenges too. So.
No, I completely agree. It is very uncommon, and especially it's like you said, it's even hard. You can know these things at all times, and they can be in the back of your head, but to enact them at all times is a whole different story. And
it's so hard. Even if you know it, it's still hard. It's like, right? Like it's like at Michigan, like you pretty much know the plays to run,
right?
Know the offense, but it's still hard to execute because life throws their different challenges at us. The other teams, maybe they throw a 1-2-2 zone at us. How do you run the rocket pistol against that? Or right?
Right.
Like, there's there's always things that make it harder. But I think that's just like learning how to win in a different way is like, that's just an opportunity. Because like if you like learning how to win in a different way will only be advantageous to you in the future, right? Because it's like, we're going to run this play that's how we're going to win.
Yep.
But like the world, like through COVID, okay, we had to win virtually. I think the world's been pretty resilient through COVID, right? Fortunately, the technology we've had with Zoom and everything else, and like this, we wouldn't have. I don't know, we would have had this podcast 10 years ago.
Right.
Wasn't really a thing. Maybe Skype was starting to be a thing. I don't know, but yeah, I think learning to win in a different way is only a positive. And last thing I'll say, back to your the first point you made about acknowledgement. It's like if you acknowledge where you currently are in any situation, you see where you want to go. I think you just got to find a way to get there, right? It's like you're 8 years old, 10 years old. You want to play for Michigan. Okay. You got to start working your tail off to get there, right?
Yeah.
You're coming out of a coma. You're in a wheelchair. You can't walk, but you want to get to Michigan. Okay. You see where you are. You see where you want to go. You just got to find a way to get there. And then to bring it all back, like I said, finding that way to get there, though, that's going to involve choosing the harder right instead of the easier wrong. And not necessarily the right or the wrong, but just choosing the harder path. I think achieving anything worthwhile is more times than not going to be the harder path rather than the easier one. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. Throughout my basketball career, had like parents ask me, and kids I've worked out with before in Indy, and helped train, and they'd ask me, okay, how is my son how can he make it to get a D1 scholarship? And my first thing, and it's always my main point, is you have to ask him what he wants. Like, you have to be very honest. When I'm talking to kids, like, you have to be very honest with what you want. Like, do you actually want a D1 scholarship? Okay, well, you can't spend an hour in the gym 3 days of the week and like messing around, throwing up half quarters. Like, that's just, you have to be honest about what kind of work you're putting in and what you're going to get out of it.
For sure.
And for parents as well, it's like, I know your son really doesn't like basketball. Like, he really doesn't want to play in college. And the most of parents that ask me that, those kids never end up playing. And it's like, you got to have real honest conversations about what you want, and then really accept like what that work is going to be like. And it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be fun. I played 9 years overseas, and there was like, oh, it's probably amazing you doing what you love. And it's like, it's a job. Like, there's so many parts of it that you don't want to do every single day, and you have to do it. But if you do it and you stay consistent, then you'll see a little bit of success. And the more consistent you are, then there's obviously skill that comes into play there, different talent levels. But it's a real acceptance of things that we don't like. And eventually you can kind of turn those into things that you do like, but it's a whole process. So I'm curious, now that I'm thinking about it, like, you have to have these conversations with yourself every day. And I'll skip days where I don't have these conversations in my head and I don't do well, and I'll go a few days, I'm like, all right, you got to get back on track, Stuart. So with your everyday life, my wife, sometimes she doesn't really appreciate there's a lot of talking that I like to do, a lot of poetic, um kind of just talking about life. So I'm curious about you and your personal life, where like, your friends and family and Abby, they're like, all right, Austin, like, can I just relax for like 2 seconds? Are you having those conversations, or have you found that balance in your personal life?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because so I'm, I like, right, we've gone through the whole grit thing that I talk about, right? Like, that's kind of like my mantra, like grit,
Mm-hmm.
that's like my thing. And like, so my wife, so our baby is measuring in the 100th percentile of size already, and he's going to be like 11 and a half pounds, they're predicting, so he's going to be a big one. And my wife's like she's joked, I'm gonna be in the delivery room, like, this is just like grit, honey, persevere, growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, at a certain point though, it's like, I do like to talk about, like the personal development stuff. Like, that's why I love that. I like anything personal development related. I'm like all for it. But it's like, at a certain point, it's, you kind of gotta put the work aside and just be, I don't know. But it's kind of hard though, because it's like playing basketball. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
like like I don't know if like you play an open gym or anything, but it's like, it's kind of hard to turn it off, like, because your whole life you've been all in, like in Michigan, and then I'm sure overseas too. You only play to win. Like, can't really just go out there and just like mess around. Like,
Yeah.
even me now, I kind of have a hard time doing that. Like, I can't play the way I used to, not even close, because all my
No,
own
but
stuff.
it's
But it's
still
like,
frustrating.
it's so frustrating when people don't take themselves seriously. So,
It's funny you say that. My wife, I just point out what's wrong, because like, that was what college was, right? You watch film and you just point out what's wrong. So
mhm.
when I watch basketball, I can't help, and just like for a metaphor, I can't help but point out all the mistakes that are going on in the basketball game. They're
Mhm.
like, somebody has like an amazing dunk. I'm like, oh yeah, he should have been in help side defense. He missed the whole rotation. It was completely his
Oh, for,
fault,
for
and gave
sure.
up that dunk. I mean, the dunk was amazing, but really it was a defensive mistake. And
Yeah.
I think it exhausts my wife Chelsea a little bit sometimes, and I had to like pull back on it, where I'm like just like pointing out mistakes all the time. I'm like, yeah, this could always be done better. But yeah, it's funny, you find that balance. Sometimes you just have to exist and
Mhm.
live and just feel, and then you can come back to it. But it is a funny balance to find, and you're really in the thick of it, because it is your business journey right now.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say, a few years down the road, and having the kid and going through more years of marriage. You'll be you'll be constantly changing, but I think you have the right mindset for it. So it'll be kind of fun to see you grow and add on to it. What do you plan on adding on to it? What have you added on to it in the last year? What are you kind of learning through everything, from where you established the grit framework to where you are now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I haven't really like changed much about the grit framework, but I've just the delivery of it has gotten smoother.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I know I keep going back to, like, this Michigan stuff, but
That's where it
right, like
started. Yeah.
like but like like the rocket pistol high road or whatever, like that if you remember, right?
Yeah, all the
Like
terminology. Yeah, you can't
for
keep
sure.
up.
But yeah, but like that doesn't change much from November to March. Doesn't change, or year over year doesn't change much. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
the same, but it's just the execution of it gets better as guys get older, get to be upperclassmen, right? I'm sure for you, like you ran the offense better as a senior than you did it in your freshman year, right?
Right.
It's the same offense, but you just run it better because you just know it. And it's like for me, the way I kind of look at it, like I think I'm kind of in like the for the sake of argument, I'm kind of in like maybe like my junior year of this.
Okay. So you're
But
getting comfortable.
like I'm getting comfortable. I can still get better,
Yeah.
but I've done a couple hundred events, have some good experience, and it's like not to say that like if you just rep it out, you're going to be great because it's obviously a lot more than just reps. It's accurate repetition and everything else. But it's like
Yep.
I think there's no substitute for that. I mean, just the experience you get from it and knowing how to be on stage and interact with the audience a little bit. And yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, I try every time I speak. I try to. And this sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. I try to get a little bit better every single time.
Yeah. No, that's
It's
all you
like
can do, right? Control
it's
the.
like every game. It's like
Yeah.
you hope you're going to grow in some way from every game you play. You hope.
Yep. Yep.
And
Exactly.
so
Control the controllables. That's what's been sticking out when you've been talking. That's one of the beeline things that I've always it's been ingrained in my head. What's one thing that's surprised you with the receptiveness? You had a lot of great testimony that I've read, but in terms of like when you go to talk to audiences and not the management, not the execs that you're dealing with, but the more the employees that you're talking to, what's kind of maybe something that's surprised you that they've taken in or absorbed?
yeah. Yeah. The nice thing is like I think when people hear my story, it makes them I don't want to say more willing to open up, but it's
Mm,
like I try to be vulnerable, right?
sure. Yeah.
Like and like just like, hey guys, here's the situation, here's my story, here's what happened, here's how I overcame it. I'm not just telling you the fun parts. I'm not telling you the exciting days when I learned to walk again, or the day when I made a 3-pointer in height when my first game back in 3 years. I'm not telling you the one free throw that I made in Michigan, although I was 1 of 3 from the line. So maybe that's not a highlight, but it's like I just try to like give the whole situation and like, hey, here's the thing. Here's what was tough. Here's what sucked about it. Obviously, a lot of it. There are a lot of parts of it. The loss, the pain, but it's like people like, but like people after I speak, they're like, they are not everybody, but usually every event, at least 5 or 6 people will come up to me and like share something personal that like you wouldn't
Mm,
that you wouldn't ask about if you didn't
right.
know. Like, but it's just like yeah, like I said, like I think when we're vulnerable and we like are transparent, I think it makes other people want to be that way too. And it's like and I don't know how this like could apply to your business or how it applies to other businesses, but it's like if we can as salespeople or because we're all in sales in some way. For
Yep.
me, I'm selling myself every single day. It's what I do, right? It's like so I got to sell myself. But if we go through things, if we experience challenges, and we share those with other people on our team, maybe and it's like hey man, here's I was going through this. Here's a challenge that I faced, and here's how we overcame it. It took a while, but here's what how we overcame. Maybe this will help you if you ever face a similar challenge, right? And
Yeah.
like I think people appreciate the vulnerability, like because everybody like especially with like Instagram and all this social media, like it's a highlight reel. You only see the best parts of people, and like
Correct.
whereas the news at night, you get all the bad stuff. You never turn off the news and you're like, hey babe, I feel really good about America right now, right? Like,
Yeah. Not often. Not lately.
no, but it's like on Instagram. Oh, look at this person. Oh wow, they were in Rome. They were look where they were in Lake Tahoe. They were or whatever. But it's like so you see all these highlight reels, but I think people appreciate when we're willing to share like the actual realities of life and the actual struggles that we go through because I think that um yeah and I think from a team standpoint I think that's the way that we can kind of like build some trust too, right?
Yeah.
Like because if people are sharing the good stuff but also the bad stuff, it's like okay, if you don't hide, if they're not hiding anything, then maybe that might be think that I don't need to hide anything either. You
It's
know?
a it's interesting, a facade that we put up for other people, and even sometimes for people in our own lives that we love still. And when that comes down, how connected you can feel, how comfortable, and it comes back to that. All right, the guy next to me, the woman next to me, I can trust now a little more. So now it's easier to do my job. So then it makes it easier to do her job. So yeah, there's a lot of different elements to trust in that way. Yeah, and vulnerability, like breaking down those walls, I think is a huge part of that. And it's not always necessary in team. I wasn't best friends with every single person on my successful teams, but
No.
that's a big part of it, especially I think in the workforce where you can get a little more of that human interaction, that personal interaction. So it's interesting how that your vulnerability by simply just explaining your story helps people in that sense, and then start from there. You got to start from somewhere.
Yeah. And it's I'm kind of reminded of like it's like I remember, seeing, some of the highlights of you and Novak and you guys playing, like I remember like, like I think I saw like there was a game at Michigan State when you guys were up there and beat them. There's something, I don't know if somebody got a technical that game or something, or somebody like there was something, or maybe they were like top 5 in the country or something. You guys weren't supposed to win that game, but like we talked about, you guys found a way to win or
Right.
something, right? And or it's like when you see guys bring the enthusiasm or the sacrifice their body to take a charge or dive on the floor for loose or whatever it is. It's like you see them doing that. Maybe I like it kind of makes you want to like step your game up a little bit, right? And I'm like, in
Yep.
like life, if you see people overcoming their challenges, okay, he put the work in to do that. I can do it too,
Yep.
So,
Yeah. No, and then it builds momentum. Builds momentum. I
mm,
got some quick hitters before we get you out of here. I did want you to kind of explain a little bit about what you're doing. You've spoken in front of more than 150 corporate audiences, more than 200 media appearances. I think it's 15,000 people you've reached. Where are you taking this? Where can people find your message, and what's next for you?
yeah. So we're in the, like I said, kind of in the maybe you could say maybe in the starting junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the fall of junior year, preseason conditioning of junior year, right? And but yeah, I'm just grateful for any and all opportunities to share my story and message and add value. And yeah, so I'm like I said, I've done a couple hundred events and it's been great. Want to keep going big. My dad always said, "Austin, whatever you do, man, go bigger or go home." So go big or go home. And I'm just trying to go big at everything I do and trying to build this as big as I can. And yeah, so my email is austin@austin-hatch.com. And if anybody's listening to this, feel free to send me a note, reach out if there's anything that I can do to serve or add value to your team or your business or school or organization in any way. Would love to. Would honor and grateful for an opportunity. My website's www.austin-hatch.com. More info about my story and message on there. You can also get in touch with me that way. Reach out via the website, submit an inquiry, things like that, and I'll follow up with you. Within an hour. And yeah, so I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be a blessing to other people, and yeah, hopefully we get many more. I think so. So my goal. So I did 82 events last year, pretty much all. I'm gonna say about 65 virtual, 17 in person last
Mm.
year. This year we've done 40. I think 40. No, yeah, 48 in person.
Wow.
So my goal is to get to 100, and probably going to be a little bit short of that. But
It's
if
a
I can,
lot.
yeah. So I'm just trying, like I said, just try to go big or go home, right? I
Yep.
can, if I can set a lofty goal. One of the worst. I think I've heard it said one of the worst things you can do for yourself is set your goals too low and achieve them, right?
Yep.
And it's like I remember at Michigan, we wanted to go undefeated at home, 500 on the road. That was usually a thing we'd say most years, right?
Yeah.
You didn't say, want to go 15-3 at home. We're going like no, like you're probably not gonna maybe go undefeated at home some years, but yeah, I think just trying to set that lofty goal, go big, and everything you do, I think gives you a pretty good chance to succeed. So
Yeah, definitely. Love it. Yeah. So just a couple quick hitters, few quick hitters, maybe not super quick. Some of them are a little more answerable, especially with your situation. But number one, I ask everybody this, and it's been pretty unanimous: Skeeps or Ricks?
depends on the stage of life you're in.
Okay, you can answer it.
I
What
think
stage?
I think Skeeps when you're a freshman or sophomore.
Oh, wow.
I think Rick's junior senior.
Interesting.
I think
Okay.
I didn't go to either that much because my wife and I started dating my freshman year, so like I
Yeah,
didn't go out that much. But
right.
I think Rick's is a step up. It's a little classier, if you
Skeeps resents that. Skeeps resents that a lot.
will.
Okay, second to last
Not,
one.
you know what? It's the target audience, right?
It's fair.
It's like you can't say that everybody is your target audience. You
No.
gotta narrow it down.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Michigan's got 30,000 undergrad. Are you targeting the 15 underclassmen or the 15 over? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, it all depends. Well, I'll tell you what, you said classy, but a couple times I went to Rick's soaking wet floor. I think my shoes were ruined basically because it like rained and it just comes in. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. But
Yeah.
I still love
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
But it was a good answer. You just split it right down the middle. You're the first one to answer like that.
Mhm.
Okay, second to last one, and you had a unique situation here when your last game, and maybe I don't know if you knew it was the last time you're going to put the jersey on, so maybe yours is a little more retrospective. You know, how did how did that feel, knowing that was that last game, or the moment that you knew that you had played your last game?
Yeah. So I mean I was on like like a I was on the roster freshman year and I was able to play, and like I said, I scored the 1 point, but I couldn't really play. I like we were up on a team by 20 with 30 seconds to go. Coach had put me in just like to give me that experience. It's really cool. I'm very grateful for that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not like I really like after my accident, I never really got to play, at least not at a high level. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was like I mean, and like the reality is like, so I was on a medical hardship scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
sophomore, junior, senior year. And, and I think about like, after we played in the national championship game against Villanova, um, in San Antonio, my senior year, I was in a suit and tie on the bench and stuff. And I was just, I was so grateful for like the Michigan family. And just like I even like like all the seniors said a few words or whatever about their experience and how grateful they were for the brother. And I was just like, man, like you look at all this stuff that I went through and everything like that, and the fact that Michigan was a constant for me.
Yeah.
Like with all the change that happened and all the loss that happened, like Michigan was Michigan. Coach Bian was Coach Bian. I'm sure he would have coached me differently if I was able to play, but like he gave me a role. And like right, and so and he had high expectations. Obviously, not this, like he didn't coach me the same way he coached Mo and Franz and Karras and people like that. But it's
Right.
like he still has high standards. He still held me accountable to fill my role. Like
Yep.
right,
Yep.
yeah. I'm just so grateful for him, and yeah, man, changed my life forever. So
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, last question.
sorry that
And
wasn't a quick hitter.
no, no, it's good. That's exactly what I wanted. Last question, and it's a little different because you were so introspective with your journey, and you learned a lot, and you dealt with a lot. And usually, I ask kind of, what's the one thing that you take away from your time at Michigan that still resonates with you today? And you can answer that. But I didn't know if maybe there was some aha moments during your years in college, your medical hardship years. Was there certain times or maybe just one year it clicked mentally for you where you're like, okay, I kind of understand how I'm going to deal with all of this now. Or you can answer the original question is like, what's one thing that you took from Michigan that you learned that you still carry with you to this day?
Yeah, I think probably the big thing for me is um, every person on every team has a role, and the role is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Not we don't have the same role, obviously, but every role matters, right? And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying that, my role was the same as Karis or yours or Duncan's or, Spike's or Mo or whoever. Not the same role, but every person on the team has a role. Like we all do. And I think we owe it to the team to make the effort to be a success by Coach John Wooden's standards, right? UCLA, like best coach in college basketball history, you could argue, him and Coach K and Coach B and all the other ones, whatever. Coach Wooden said, success is peace of mind, which comes only from knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you're capable. Like peace of mind, knowing you made the effort, right? And I'm like, man, if we can all just make the effort to be the best we could be, we're not all going to be the stars of the team, but if everybody can make the effort to be the best they can be at their role all the time, how's the team not going to win? And it's like, yeah, I just think think about it like for the good of the team, whatever I could do to add value to Michigan. I couldn't play, right? But if what I could do to add value was help unload luggage on the road trips from the plane to the bus, right? Is it like if that's what I could do to add value, it's what I could do.
Yeah.
If I could encourage my teammates, if I could call out like help side, like kind of shout a defensive coverage or whatever from the bench, like whatever it is,
right?
If I could just add value to the team in some way, I think that's probably the biggest thing that I learned. So
no, it's a huge life lesson. I think I can take that question and we can make a whole other podcast episode. It's like, what's 10 things that you learned? We could do a whole episode of that. We might have to down the road. No, Austin, I really appreciate you doing this. This was amazing. I could have talked to you for another hour. Best of luck with everything. Everybody check him out and message him if you want to reach out to him. I really appreciate you, man. This was great. And hopefully we'll have you back on to talk some more.
No, for sure, man. Yeah. Let's follow up in a year after I have 10 months as a dad. I'm sure I'll have a different perspective on things, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I can't wait. I got to pick your brain because I'm starting that process. So we'll see how it goes. I'll definitely be asking questions.
Yeah, for sure. Not, you know what? Well, you know who you could ask is Novak.
He's got
two now, right?
Number two. Yeah.
Just last week or like recently.
Yeah. I think last few days. He was like, "Yeah, I'm done." I said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna be throwing questions at you constantly, see how it goes." So yeah, that's funny. I got a lot of resources around me, which is good.
No, for sure, man. For sure. Well, hey, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. Look forward to staying in touch for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you, man.